A series of powerful solar storms are slamming Earth this weekend, and they're creating dazzling displays of northern lights. This was what it looked like in Vancouver last night as the sky filled with a spectacular display of the aurora borealis. That's amazing. The light show is caused by highly charged particles from the sun, and in this case, from a rare and unusually severe solar storm that's pummeling Earth's magnetic field. And here's a time lapse now that shows some of the dazzling display that lit up the night sky in Switzerland. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says this is the most significant geomagnetic storm since 2003. So for more on that geomagnetic storm, we're joined live by CTV's science and tech expert, Dan Riskin. Thanks so much for making time for us on a Saturday, no less.
Well, listen, when there's a G5 geomagnetic storm, I will make time for you any day of the week. I mean, it's huge. This has not happened, like you said, since 2003. Yesterday, NOAA, the U.S. administration that sort of monitors space weather, was looking at these coronal mass ejections headed toward Earth. There were like somewhere between 5 and 7 of them that had sort of stacked on top of each other, were headed our way. And they said, listen, this could be a G4. And then lo and behold, it's a G5, which is bigger. So this is an extreme event as opposed to a severe event, which is what they call a G4. So everybody's happy. It's just beautiful. Anytime you can go outside and see the northern lights like this. And the great news is the sun is still burping this stuff out. And so as far as we know, we should get a similar show tonight. And who knows, it could continue even beyond that, which I'm hoping for, since it's supposed to be stupid cloudy tonight in Toronto and everywhere around Toronto. So maybe it can clear by the next night. Maybe we'll get some to see that night.
In a perfect world, Dan, what time would this happen for anyone in Toronto who is either in the city or maybe going to race up to the cottage or somewhere nearby to actually get a better look?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked and I've actually checked in with Kelsey McEwen, chief meteorologist with CTV. I said, is there anywhere I can drive, 3 hours from here, from the GTA, where I'm going to be able to see a clear sky? And she said, it really doesn't look good tonight. And I used all the apps I could to try to find an exception to that rule and couldn't. So I think the scramble to the cottage is probably, I mean, it's always nice to go to the cottage, but you're probably not going to be able to see through the clouds. But this storm is, I mean, it's Earth, right? It's huge. And it's hard to predict where these things are going to light up. So there were people in the States who could see this. Vancouver, it's unheard of for Vancouver to get northern lights. That's barely north. So for Edmonton to get it, I was talking to friends in Alberta and in Saskatchewan. They saw magnificent shows. They should be able to get a great show again. But you never know with this stuff. It could be visible, as far south as Colorado or California. So we don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know how big it's going to be. We don't know where the best places are. But in general, it needs to be dark out and there need to be no clouds. And so if you can find a spot like that, get outside and go look at the sky. And if you are in a place like that, set an alarm for the middle of the night so you can get outside and check it out in the middle of the night, because sometimes it's before sunrise that it's most glorious.
I mean, it is beautiful. I was just actually watching a friend of mine out in Squamish. You mentioned Vancouver, beautiful sky lit up there. Even Rochester, New York, which is not very far actually from Toronto, so that could have been a good place to go. As an atmospheric delinquent, Dan, what is a geomagnetic storm? Is that just another word for I guess amazingness that creates the northern lights?
Yeah, so geo means Earth, magnetic means magnets, and our Earth has a giant magnet in it. We have and you know that because when you hold a compass, it points north, and that's because we have this magnetic field. Not all planets have that. Mars doesn't have that. And so when the sun belches its coronal mass ejection of plasma out into space, it travels 800 kilometers a second, it smashes into the planet, and it tears the atmosphere off and shreds it apart and sends it off into space, killing everything unless you have a magnetic field. So Mars got destroyed. That's part of the reason they think Mars doesn't have a nice atmosphere where things can grow and live, is because geomagnetic storms ripped away its atmosphere, whereas Earth is protected by this magnetic field. So when the sky lights up, it's the sun trying to kill us, and it's our Earth protecting us. I mean, it's like watching X-Men or something like that. It's really a spectacularly violent thing that's happening in space, but we are protected by our magnetic field. And it's a good thing because it's just pretty to look at and it's not scary at all.
It's pretty much like watching an IMAX movie, but in real life.
And bigger and way bigger than an IMAX. I mean, these things can go from one horizon to the other. And if you, I mean, I grew up in Edmonton and I have some memories from seeing these as a kid. And when you see this light sort of wave start at the east end of the sky and travel right over your head and then touch the west side of the sky, it is unreal how beautiful it is and how small you feel. And so it's just wonderful that so many people are getting a chance to see this. And listen, we're at the top of an 11-year cycle for the sun. So we should have a whole sort of several months of storms like this. This might be the best one we get in this whole cycle. But nonetheless, there are going to be more northern lights in the coming months as well. So fingers crossed that if you didn't get it, or if it's raining in Toronto and you're not going to be able to see it tonight, just, stick with it. We might get some more good stuff this year. We'll hope.
And seeing the Northern Lights is on my bucket list, so I'll watch out for your reporting on this. CTV's science and tech expert, Dan Riskin, always a pleasure. I love how passionate you are about it. Thank you.
It's the Northern Lights. It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
You bet.